Hello there, and thanks for joining me. I'm Elisa Boxer, author of The Voice That Won the Vote, How One Woman's Words Made History. It is illustrated by Vivien Mildenberger and published by Sleeping Bear Press. Now, we are in the suffrage centennial, which means 100 years ago, after a lot of hard work, women were finally given the right to vote. But it almost didn't happen. This is actually the story of the woman who helped save suffrage. Now, as a journalist, I'm typically drawn to stories of unsung heroes, those little-known figures in history. So when I found out that the 100th anniversary of women's right to vote was coming up, I did an internet search for little-known heroes in the women's suffrage movement. That's how I found my topic. I stumbled across the story of Feb Byrne, this woman you see right here, and she showed so much courage at a time when society was trying to keep her and other women very small. So I thought, this is a story that I really want to tell. It really inspired me, and I hope it inspires you as well. So here we go. The voice that won the vote. How one woman's words made history. A vote is a voice. This is what I believe in. This is what I stand for. This is what matters to me. This is who I am. This is who I choose to lead my town, my state, my country. In 1920, women were still denied that voice. For nearly 75 years, they had organized meetings, marched in parades, carried signs, and made speeches demanding their right to vote. "Say yes to suffrage," they shouted. They wore yellow roses. Yellow means yes. But they were silenced. Other voices drowned them out. Troublemakers, female voters will surely cause chaos, uncivilized. Can you believe they actually said these things? Women with a voice in politics? Nonsense. And this is my favorite, or least favorite. The only vote a woman needs is the vote to choose her husband. Yikes. But nestled in a valley on a farm in East Tennessee, one woman was determined to have a voice and a vote. Feb Byrne was known around town as smart and strong-willed. At a time when most women didn't go to college, Feb did. She graduated and became a teacher. She read newspapers, magazines, and books. She loved to learn. Feb Byrne was especially fascinated by laws and the people who made them. Every year on election day, the men who worked on her farm would head to town hall to cast their votes. And every year, Feb Byrne would watch them go. She was sick and tired of staying home, shut out of the process. So, one day she sat on her front porch with some paper, a pen, and a plan. "Dear son," she began. A few days later, a letter arrived on the desk of the youngest lawmaker in Tennessee. His name was Harry Byrne, and on that hot August day, he watched the state capitol fill up with reporters, photographers, and people from all over the country who had come to witness history. America was on the verge of change. 35 states wanted women to vote, but the country needed 36 to make it law. It all came down to Tennessee, the last state left to vote. If lawmakers in Tennessee said yes, women across the nation would finally be allowed to cast their ballots. If Tennessee lawmakers said no, well, things would stay exactly the same. It was a tie. They would have to vote again. Harry Byrne was ready to stand firm for what he believed in. He had voted against women's suffrage in the first round. He knew that most of the people who had elected him hated the idea of women voting. Many of those people were in the audience, and they knew they could count on Harry Byrne. After all, the proof was right there on his jacket, a red rose, the symbol of keeping women in the home and out of the voting booth. The state capitol was filled with more red roses than yellow that day, and everyone knew what that meant. Someone would break the tie with a no. It was time to vote again. Someone did indeed break the tie. Harry Byrne. "Yes," he said. "What?" The officials in charge asked the young lawmaker to repeat himself. Obviously, he'd made a mistake. Clearly, he'd gotten confused. But there was no mistake. He was not confused. Harry Byrne wanted women to vote. No one could believe it. Many of the women who had organized meetings, marched in parades, carried signs, and made speeches were in the audience wearing their yellow roses. They gasped and cried and hugged each other. But why did Harry Byrne change his vote? "I know that a mother's advice is always safest for a boy to follow," he explained. And then, from his jacket pocket behind that red rose, Harry Byrne pulled out a note from his mother. The one Feb Byrne had written on her front porch. And it says, "Hurrah and vote for suffrage and don't keep them in doubt. Don't forget to be a good boy. With lots of love, Mama." The people who had elected Harry Byrne were shocked and furious. A grown man listening to his mother? "We'll show him," they thought. "We will not vote for Harry Byrne in the next election." "Byrne ruined in politics," declared the headlines. Harry Byrne understood. He knew that by giving women the right to vote, he was giving up his seat in the Tennessee House of Representatives. The people in his district just weren't ready for a leader who wanted women to vote. He told newspaper reporters, "I am happy simply because I followed my conscience. It kept telling me women are people, and voting, he knew, should be the right of all people." He thought again of his mother. "So I made the choice," he said, explaining that standing up for what he believed in was more important than winning the next election. It took courage. And courage has a way of making things right. Election day came. When the campaigns were over and the votes were counted, the new state representative was announced. Harry Byrne! He kept his seat in the Tennessee legislature, kept standing up for equal rights, and no one was prouder than the woman who, without speaking a word, gave all women a voice. Thank you so much for sharing this story with me. Now, I want to show you something very cool. So this is the actual envelope, a copy of the envelope from the letter that Feb Byrne wrote to Harry, and this is a copy of one of the pages of the actual letter, and you can read that letter yourself if you go to my website, elisaboxer.com, and click on the teacher's guide. It will give you a link to read the actual letter. So elisaboxer.com, click on the teacher's guide. It will give you a link where you can read the actual letter. Thank you so much, and I hope that you always know how much your voice matters.